Hello, everyone, and welcome to All In TBT. We've got another great guest here today. We've got Boeheim's Army GM, Kevin Belbey. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Charlie. How are you, man?
I'm doing really, really good. Really
Good.
excited for the tournament.
Absolutely. Me too. Got my Bam's Army gear on right here, so I'm ready.
All right. So, Kevin, you are a Syracuse graduate, 2013, if I am correct. So, what about your Syracuse experience, specifically through Syracuse basketball, made you want to stay involved with Syracuse basketball in this sort of environment?
Yeah. For me, it was just, I don't know, like Syracuse basketball. Every basketball team, every company, every sports team, really, they call themselves a family. But at Syracuse basketball, I really felt that special connection and special bond. And I remember as a senior in particular, went to the Final Four in 2013, lost to Michigan in Atlanta, and we had just a stacked team. Michael Carter Williams, Brandon Trish, the all-time winningest player in Q's history, Rakeem Christmas, Jeremy Grant, Trevor Cooney, James Sutherland, and I know I'm by Musakeda. We were loaded. And CJ Fair as well. And I remember being in the locker room after the game and just being so upset that, it was my last game and that it was kind of the end of the road for me in terms of Syracuse basketball. I remember I was crying and Mike Hopkins came over and just put his arm around me and was like, this is really just the start. He's like, Syracuse basketball, like, you're going to be a part of this forever. And that's turned out to be true. My younger brother, Sean, just spent 5 years at Syracuse playing on the team there. And this is the sixth summer of doing BAM's Army and TBT. So there's just, I think, a very special connection about with and around Syracuse basketball. And honestly, I think it all goes back to Jim Boeheim. You see it at some schools, the guys, there might be different fractions of the team's history where, that's divided up by the head coaches who guys have. Well, pretty much if you've played it and you're still alive, you had Jim Boeheim as your head coach, which is, whether you played,
quite a bit.
yeah, whether you played in the 70s or you're an incoming freshman right now, you've had the same head coach. So that automatically gives a bond and a connection, and especially for the fan base, now he's like been passed down generation to generation and is still kicking butt. So I think that's what makes it different, and it really goes back to Boeheim at the end of the day, every day. So there's a reason he's a Hall of Famer and has 1,000 wins, and there's a reason why we named our team after him.
So I know that as a manager, you really got to be up close and personal with Jim Boeheim, just being on the bench, learning through him through practice. So what can anybody learn from a guy like that who's done something so well for such a long time?
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, simply like you have to, I think if you want to be great at something, you've got to be obsessed with it. And basketball is really the only thing he cares about besides, his family and his foundation. But he's watching games all the time. He's always in the gym. He easily could just be writing off, his own coattails, writing off his name and just kind of taking it easy. But that's not the case. Nobody watches more film. Nobody puts in more time than Jim Boeheim. So just realizing that you have to have this obsessive quality about you if you want to be truly great and special. That's the biggest thing, and then obviously principle wise, learn a lot about the 2-3 zone, way more than I ever thought I would. And then just, learn how to conduct yourself as a person and as a member of the community. And he's raised millions of dollars through his foundation, the Jim and Julie Boeheim Foundation, year after year after year. And again, that's not something he needs to do, but it's something he wants to do, to be a good member of the community and to give back to the people who have given him a lot. So all of those lessons are things that I still think about and that help shape me to this day.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you can tell just the effect that Jim Boeheim not only has on players, just the people around the Syracuse basketball organization, if you will, just with guys like you staying involved and things like that. So how did you really get started with Boeheim's Army, and did you see yourself involved all these years later when you started?
Yeah, so I'm from New Jersey, and there was a guy back in 2014. 2014 was the first year of the tournament, and there was a guy involved that I knew just kind of through New Jersey basketball circles. His name's Rob Kennedy, and he pitched me on the idea of putting a Syracuse team together. And I just honestly, I was very busy. It was my first year of law school and kind of overwhelmed with that. And also just didn't even think that this was real, like it just seemed like a scam almost. It was too good to be true. You're
Yeah.
playing for a huge chunk of money on national TV. But what happened was I paid attention to the tournament, and the championship game that year got picked up on ESPNU. And I remember watching it, and a Notre Dame alumni team wound up winning. And it was just kind of born out of competition where I just said, if this is something that Notre Dame can do, this is definitely something Syracuse can do, and honestly do better. So that's where the motivation started. And the first two calls I made were one to Hakeem Warwick, who played at Syracuse, was an All-American, national champ. Had the
Biggest
game-winning
block in
block
Syracuse history.
exactly, maybe the biggest block in basketball history, sealing the national championship in 2003. And I called him first because he had played in that first year's version of the tournament. His agent had put him on a team with some of the agent's other clients, but they didn't do well. They only had like 5 or 6 guys and no structure, no bench. And when I reached out to him, he immediately said yes, because I think that he realized he just saw a team win it that had structure, that was an alumni team, and realized, that what we could bring to the table if we set it up correctly. So he was in. And then I was up on campus over the summer for law school, taking some classes, and I bumped into Eric Devendorf on campus at like a restaurant bar called Fagan's. And he was just coming off back surgery after an injury playing overseas. He was looking for a new opportunity to prove himself and get back on the court, and he immediately was in. So that was how it got started. Now I had 2 guys who, first of all, extremely talented. It was a great inside-outside combination to build around, and 2 guys who were super respected in the Syracuse community, from the fan base perspective, but also from the players' perspective. Like I don't think that there's any 2 players that other Syracuse players look up for that have come through in the last 20 years, other than maybe Melo. Those guys have really been through it all and are great stewards in the community and give a lot back. So, after that, I was just really got things really got rolling from there.
So obviously now the tournament is filled with, we have so many alumni teams this year, and obviously the tournament was cut short, condensed because of COVID-19, but before that there were even more alumni teams. So from your perspective, being the general manager for Boeheim's Army, what do you think that that these guys, although they weren't on the same Syracuse team, they're all playing for Syracuse, something that they must hold fondly to be a part of this. How do you think that kind of elevates their games and elevates the competition?
First of all, I think it gives us a competitive advantage, because one of the probably the hardest thing about competing in TBT is there's a lack of preparation time. You look at the Syracuse men's basketball team; they have the summer to have off-season workouts. They have August, September, October to practice before there's even an exhibition game. For us, we at best will have 4 or 5 days of practice before we go out and play. And other teams maybe not even have those 4 or 5 days. So for us to have a baseline perspective of who everybody is, what their strengths and weaknesses are, have chemistry off the court. All these guys already know each other. And then, we use some principles that these guys use when they played at Syracuse. Obviously, we play with the zone, and we play in the Syracuse style a lot of the time. So that gives us a big advantage, just having guys who already know each other and are on the same page. But you've seen it grow year after year. More and more teams get in, and I know the tournament loves having alumni-based teams because we bring in, the schools already have a set fan base. I mean, there's no question we have the biggest and best and most passionate fans in the tournament year after year. We've proven that. We've sold out Atlanta, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Chicago, Baltimore. And, last year they gave us games in Syracuse, home games in Syracuse, which was awesome. Obviously, we sold out games there. We're going to play again this summer in Syracuse before COVID, so I'm sure we'll be up there next year. Um, so, it just gives us a structure, and it gives us something to build around. And so I was happy last year after we were eliminated. I was happy to see Ohio State, Carmen's crew, win the championship, because I can resonate with them and what they go through to put a team together. And it also gives us a little hope, like, hey, like, this can be done. An alumni team can win it. Obviously, Overseas Elite was just a team of a bunch of hired guns, basically some of the best guys that play professionally overseas all around the world, getting together on the same team. If you're picking a team like ours just from one school, in some ways you're limiting the talent pool. But it gives us a lot of advantages too. And so I was happy to see those guys with Carmen's crew win it last year, and looking forward to seeing us win it this year.
Yeah, 100%. I think that we see that the tournament will be a little bit different this year. Just for those who aren't 100% sure of the format, the tournament's been cut from 64 teams to 24 teams. Everybody's staying on site, a little bit similar to what the NBA is doing in terms of a bubble format. So what do you think, kind of the no fans, the less teams, how does that affect your team and just the tournament overall?
Yeah, I mean, having no fans hurts us for sure, because our fans are crazy. Like I said, I know that our fans would have been in Syracuse, they would have been in Columbus if they would have been allowed to. So, and when you're playing for a boatload of money, every little advantage helps. So of course we won't there to, cheering during free throws and standing and clapping until the first basket in the first and second half, no question. But it's really going to level the playing field for everybody. And, I think that the biggest thing to watch over the next 2 weeks is not the most talented team or the team like this team is not played. This tournament is not going to be played in a perfect world, right? We're dealing with COVID-19, so it's going to be interesting to see. I'm sure that some players are going to test positive. Leading up to this, the tournament's has a really strong health and safety plan, and is putting us through pretty rigorous testing. We'll have to test negative a bunch of times before we even step on the court. So, it's not just who has a great team and a great roster on the court, and it's different. It's a unique challenge, and all our guys are doing the best that they can to wear masks and socially distance. But you think about it, they can't even. It's really frowned upon even for our guys to go play pickup, to go play in an open run, because you've got 10, 15 other guys there, 20 other guys maybe, who you don't know where they've been, and you may trust them and like them, but you don't know. There's an uncertainty factor, so that is also a challenge, because guys want to be playing, because they're about to be playing for $1 million on ESPN national TV with no other sports going on, and so they want to feel like they're in game shape, want to feel like they're prepared. So that's just something else that we're working through, but every other team has to work through too. It's a challenge for all of us.
Yeah, and obviously there are some inherent disadvantages, like you said, to that. But I think one of the advantages that TBT certainly has is this is the first basketball that will be on TV since probably the NBA and the NCAA shut down in March. So do you think that this could help TBT kind of reach new fans as being like the first thing on, and some people who might just accidentally go onto the channel and see it on, just that sort of thing, kind of draw in some new fans for the future?
I mean, I think no question. If I wasn't a big basketball fan, a sports fan in general, I would want to watch this. This is the first basketball played on American soil since March 12th, March 13th, when everything was canceled. So it's very exciting that we're going to be one of the first live sports back, really the first live team sport back. I think it's going to be great for the future of the tournament, for the health of the tournament, for the growth of it. And it's going to be a great opportunity for our guys. It's going to give our guys, I say all the time that the money in this is awesome. And it's you have a chance to win life-changing money. But if you're smart and you play well, the opportunity that the tournament affords can be more valuable than the prize money, because if you go out there and you're Malachi Richardson and you want to prove yourself to the world and to the NBA community, you go out and score 20, 25 points a game and lead us to the championship. All those games are on TV. People are going to be paying attention. They're definitely going to be paying attention.
And that's just completely elevated by the situation this year. That'll be
Absolutely.
one of the only things on. So this is more of just I guess from a basketball fan's perspective. As a fan, obviously before you were Syracuse basketball manager and Boeheim's Army GM, you were just a basketball fan like a lot of us. And what's it just like as a Syracuse basketball fan to kind of see these guys from different eras of Syracuse basketball together and playing together like kind of like a fantasy league, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I for forever, I've always gotten like NBA 2K. Even I used to play NBA Live, and I would I still rarely ever actually play games. I always like do my league or my GM mode where I'm just building teams and signing players and trading players and building teams and franchises. Love fantasy basketball and fantasy football. So like this is really a dream job for me to be able to put this together. It's a ton of fun, but I'm a fan first, like you said. So I try to think of it from a fan perspective. I want to put the best possible team together talent wise, but I also want it to be fun for our fans because without our fans, we're nothing. And every year I think we've had new players that haven't played before, and we've had different roster combinations. So we've kept it really fresh. We've probably had over, close to 30 different, if not more than 30 different guys who have played with us. This is going to be our 6th summer. So we've had really good roster variations of different groupings of players. And, it's been, it's a lot of fun, and I think it's a dream job in a lot of ways. But if you're a Syracuse fan, to be able to see, Malachi Richardson in the backcourt with Eric Devendorf, I think that's amazing. You have debates in the barbershop about like who is better, but now like these guys can play together, and you can see it out there for real. It's pretty trippy, and I think it's pretty awesome. I'm biased, but I just think it's a really cool thing for any Syracuse fan to see somebody like Hakeem Warwick, who played 15 years ago for Syracuse, played that national championship game 17, 18 years ago, still be going out and wearing orange and representing the school. It's special.
So like you said, there's a certain balance, like you said, with keeping the talent and the roster construction and who's interesting, who's like a lot of different things go into it. So when you're looking for who you're going to try and put together this team, what's kind of that process? Because I think that's something that people who are getting into TBT might be very interested in, because obviously it's not like any other GM job. It's probably very different. So I'd love to hear kind of what that process is like.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it a little bit, like my pitch to the guys. I mean, I talked to them about the money and how that it can be life-changing, but I talked to them about the opportunity that this affords, guys can get jobs out of this. But in the beginning, I had to convince guys that this was a real thing. Back in 2015, like guys still didn't know what it was, and they were still trying to figure out if it was real or not. And I had to convince them that this was a real, legitimate thing. And now, thankfully, we've built a brand, and the tournament has continued to grow. It's a little easier to, not have to convince guys that this is real. Tyler Lydon, for example, the first year we put a BAM's Army team together, we always go up to Syracuse for a week before in practice, and a lot of times we scrimmage against the current SU guys. That year, 2015, Lydon was an incoming freshman, and we practiced against him. And so now it's kind of come full circle where he's part
awesome.
of – yeah, I mean, so he knew about it from before he even stepped on campus as a student. This year it's been a little different to recruit guys, I think. With everything going on, one, you got to have guys who are super committed and dedicated to the quarantine and sacrificing time away from the family and doing all the testing. But this year, more than ever, I've had guys come to me and ask to play and say, hey, like, I don't care what my role is. I don't care how many shots I take, if I start or not. I just want to be a part of it. And I think that's because just like you and me. These guys have been sitting on the couch watching Tiger King and just bored. And, they want to get out there and play basketball and play with their buddies. This is like a giant college reunion for $1 million. And, there's really nothing better than that.
Yeah, and just before I let you go, I got to ask, I mean, there's certainly been a couple of big moments, a bunch of big moments in Boeheim's Army history, although it hasn't been that long, the tournament itself. But is there any one game or one player, one moment from your tenure as GM that kind of sticks out to you, just like, wow?
Yeah. In 2017, we went to the Final Four that year. And, the game to get us to the Final Four, we were down by 25 points with 12 minutes to go.
And that was against the Morris twins team, right?
Correct. Yep. A Philly team run by both the Morris twins, team FOE. And honestly, I just thought we were done. I thought we were going to lose. And the reason why was, obviously we're down by 25 with 12 minutes to go. So that's really hard to overcome. But in the timeouts and in the huddles, like nobody was fired up and yelling and screaming. And I took that, everybody was like pretty quiet and I took that as the guys were like defeated and I had kind of given up. But I couldn't have been more wrong. Really, what was happening was they were focused and they were dialed in, and they weren't focused on the scoreboard that we were down by 25. They were just still so locked into the game that they were ready to claw back play by play. That's exactly what happened. I mean, to come back from 25 points down with less than 12 minutes to go and win the game and go to the Final Four. I mean, we blitzed them. It was an all-out blitz. Those guys, they almost tried to fight us after the game, and I don't blame them because it was like they had it in their hands. They should have won, and they didn't even blow it as much as we just stole it from them. And it was an incredible game, an incredible feeling, and but we've had some awesome moments. We had a double overtime win against team called Gale Nation. 99-96 was the final. We had a huge overtime win our first year against a LaSalle alumni team. We've had some really awesome matchups over the years. There really are no blowouts in TBT, and part of it is the level of competition. Part of it is the shorter clock, and now part of it is the Elam ending too.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. I had a great time talking to you. And good luck this summer. I'm really excited to watch some Boeheim's Army.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Go Orange, and look forward to bringing home the money this summer.
All right.